war is a universal language.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the LuckyDog podcast. This is your host, Elias. Whether you need photography, videography, aerial, drone photography, web design, podcast support, or technical support, EliasRoushMedia.com has you covered. Today we are discussing Captain Marvel 2019, directed by Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, directors and writers of, what the hell have they written before? They've written a couple of things. Both of these writer-director combos have tackled the movie. They were part of Half Nelson, 2006, Sugar, 2008, and It's Kind of a Funny Story in 2010. And so they've been working on those projects, specifically writing and directing those. And individually, they've directed television shows such as The Big C, The Affair, Billions, and Ryan Fleck has that, and that was Anna Boden's television. And so is Ryan Fleck. Ryan Fleck has also directed. He was part of HBO's Room 104. He was directed Red Tent on that. Billions, The Affair, and Looking. And so these writer-directors are well-versed in, working with each other, and they are responsible for bringing Captain Marvel to the big screen. And so this movie on $152 million is honestly the major stepping stone the majority of fans are looking for between Avengers Infinity War and the Avengers Endgame sequel. So how much does this influence that? How much is it correlated to it? That's what we're about to talk about. I guess there's sort of spoilers for Avengers Infinity War. So if you're listening to this, I'm assuming you've already watched Avengers Infinity War and the post-credit scenes. And so same thing with Captain Marvel. The thing about Captain Marvel is 2 hours, 4 minutes. Let's do this synopsis real quick so I can help you understand what's going on in this. It is very much of a stepping stone of a movie. But Captain Marvel is an extraterrestrial Kree warrior who finds herself caught in the middle of an intergalactic battle between her people and the Skrulls. Living on Earth in 1995, she keeps having reoccurring memories of another life as a U.S. Air Force pilot, Carol Danvers. With help from Nick Fury, Captain Marvel tries to uncover the secrets of her past while harnessing her special powers to end the war with the evil Skrulls. So it's a mouthful. It's a mega jam-packed movie, and with saying that, I think that for people that are well-versed in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and I guess superheroes in general, I would say this is a slightly above average film. I would give it around a 7 to an 8 out of 10, mostly because I think the charisma of Brie Larson as Carol Danvers and Samuel Jackson as Nick Fury, and obviously Ben Mendelsohn, all really, and Jude Law too. It's hard not to like these individuals. They all are excellent actors in generally almost anything they're in. And so putting them together is hard to fuck up. But I would say some of the writing in this was a little bland. I was a little bit unimpressed with the types of fighting scenes. It's slightly complicated when it comes to such an easy story. It seems like an easy narrative to explain, but it's also predictable at the same time. and it's not exactly unfolded unwell. It's not told in the easiest fashion, and sometimes information's kept from the audience or the main character because of plot convenience. And there is a lot of that. There's a lot of plot convenience throughout the majority of this movie, and I you can't ignore that. The thing is, are you going to have a good time? Is someone that that has seen tons and tons of footage of superheroes, comic books, and things like that adapted to the screen? I'd say it's an acceptable stepping stone between the two Avengers movies, but it's hard to match that, because there's so many other superheroes that kind of have the same type of power suit, and DC has it feels very much like they're taking from the DC handout book, and that's that when I say that, I mean the majority of Marvel characters have been very focused on real life people that have, enhanced themselves, this, that, or the other just a little bit, but they're not gods. In DC, they're pretty much gods. And so Captain Marvel very much feels like a hero from the DC universe in the way that she's presented. Now, I enjoyed my time watching Captain Marvel, and I would overall recommend it to somebody that has not, or that is curious about seeing it. I think it's an enjoyable ride, and there's some decent iconography in there that will be a feel-good time for the majority of people. And for women, especially on, Happy International Women's Day, by the way. Women, I believe, are going to especially enjoy this because she very much feels like a female Superman in the way it's presented. I think tonally and thematically, they take iconography from other movies such as Star Trek, and I would say a little bit of I got a little bit of Star Warsian feel in there, and they really play their hand with the Brie Larson, feminist, pro-feminist agenda. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying that, it's extremely female-empowered movie. And, let's do it. Let's do it. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the side quirks of the character. Okay, so let me explain this a little bit more for someone that has not seen the movie. There are scenes in the movie that feel like they are talking directly at the people who were criticizing the trailer and saying, "Oh, she needs to smile more. Oh, she needs to do this. She needs to do that. She being criticized as a superhero feels very much like what this movie is taking on, and I do appreciate that. I appreciate the movie acknowledging how much backlash there has been against this character for almost absolutely no reason. I would say just because she's a female, she's getting all this ridiculous hate, which is completely unacceptable. If you're not gonna like a movie, if you're not gonna like a character, so be it. Don't lash out at the actor or actress because of it. It's not, it's just a property. It's just a movie. So it's not the end all be all just because, there's a female playing, a pro-feminist character. I mean, I have absolutely nothing wrong with it. Mostly because we don't get this kind of character on screen ever. And it's important for, women to feel empowered, especially if you're watching a movie like this. So I think from that side, I think they definitely tackle that message. I can see why some people are going to just revolt against it, and that's just probably your personality type versus you're just not interested in this type of storytelling and type of message. And I'm not going to say there's anything, I'm not going to go tackle that message and, tell people, their equal opportunity is the way it's, has to be. But, that's my personal beliefs. And, I'm not doing this podcast to say, super equal opportunity, because I just believe it already, so I don't want to have to reiterate myself. So that's why it's important to have these types of movies to push the agenda forward, make it equal opportunity, have someone that, you know, men and women, not just women, that men can look up to too. She's got a great message to send to both genders, and it's besides the writing and plot convenience, I think it overall has a solid message, and that's why I'm kind of giving this a little bit more leniency than some of the other Marvel films. Black Panther was a step forward for the black community in superhero comics adapted on screen. This is a step forward for women, and it's pro women in every way possible, and empowering self identity and being who you are, no matter who you are. And I think you can take that message away from it. Depending, no matter how good you thought the fight scenes or the choreography, I thought it had a solid message. Now, with saying all of that, I think there's, this movie is a little bit of a mess. So, let me see if I can do a 3-part breakdown real quick for anyone that has not seen it, what I thought about. Just the intro is a little hanky-panky getting it together, but once it started getting going, I was really enjoying it. I'd say I enjoyed it the majority of the second half and leading into the third half. Third half gets a little clunky, and that's where it's becomes much more formulaic and slightly predictable. And so that's kind of how I can summarize it. A little weak at the beginning, a little weak at the end, but I really enjoyed the ride. So that's Captain Marvel, spoiler free. Anything else? Music, titles. Oh, there's some great Stan Lee title sequencing that is great for the remembrance of Stan Lee, and I really enjoyed that. Let me see. The music, a little bit too whimsical and a little bit too. The film just. I never felt like I was ever in real danger, and I think that's ultimately a problem. And her not having strictly defined powers is a little bit difficult as well. So let's hop into spoilers. Let's do spoilers for Captain Marvel starting right now. You better have seen Captain Marvel, otherwise you're about to get spoiled. So, after watching Captain Marvel, I didn't really do a character breakdown in the spoiler-free section, so maybe I can do that real quick. First of all, costume design and all the designs of the aliens I thought looked really good. I did not think the writing was always on par. The humor is kind of... I'm not one of those people that are like solely against Marvel humor, but I like my humor just a little bit dirtier, a little bit more brash, a little bit edgy, dark humor, just a tad bit. And the Marvel humor is so safe all the time. It's a little, I don't know. There's one scene with what's his name, Samuel L. Jackson. Nick Fury is looking at the alien's crotch or something like that. He's like, what the fuck? And it's like it's not even a line. It's something that Samuel L. does. He like picks up, the towel that's covering the dead alien to see what kind of genitals he has like that. It's like fucking, it's just weird, and it's quirky, and we don't get that kind of, most of that type of humor in Marvel, and that's the kind of humor that's just gross out a little bit, and it's funny, and it's subtle. It doesn't need to be strictly pointed out. A lot of the times Marvel has to make a joke, point it out, say how it's wrong, how it's stupid, and you move on and you forget about it. There's not many. I can't say there's tons of great jokes, but that was one of the good ones in this. Ben Mendelsohn obviously is fantabulous. Yeah, he was fantabulous, because fantabulous is Talos. The the alien who was bad at the beginning and then he turns good, and vice versa for Captain Marvel's team at the beginning. Jude Law is good at the beginning. We find out he's bad. It was just like a hanky panky way of turning everything on its set and on its head. I think I want to point out whenever Brie Larson met up with her co-pilot, who I really liked, Lashana Lynch as Maria Rambeau. If I can speak English, sorry, Maria. When Carol meets up with Maria on that ranch, it slows the movie down for me. It just completely comes to a halt, and it's just tons of exposition. And then we have Talos come down, and they basically team up with the aliens kind of thing. And so I was just like, this is where I'm starting to lose, some of my focus. Once Ben Mendelsohn was not the main antagonist anymore, it just seemed like, I don't like where this is going. What's her name? Annette Bening as the Supreme Intelligence / Marvel. She's excellent. She was kind of like in Wonder Woman what Robin Wright was, kind of the older Marvel hero that Captain Marvel has to look up to. So the wise one that everyone has to look up to. I'm not trying to say she's old. She just happens to be old, the older version of Captain Marvel. But she still got it going on. She can whoop some ass. I just thought the power beams and all of that it was so ill-defined when it came to Captain Marvel's power. It just seemed she was like Superman, and she needs to be as powerful as she needs to be. And that type of storytelling can be dangerous. It's almost like shape-shifting, how the Skrulls were shape-shifting for the first half, which pretty much gets, it gets dismissed by the third half of the movie. It was almost going to be like, who do we trust? Because we don't know who's who. But also, the whole point of having the Skrulls turn into people just was a crazy idea, and you needed to, the only way you could tell if they were not Skrulls is if you sat them down and interviewed them about their childhood, which didn't make any fucking sense to me. Am I missing something? Because I'm pretty sure Carol Danvers, when she's accusing Samuel L. of possibly being a Skrull in the bar back in the day, or when she first meets up with him, they sit down and he talks about his childhood like a child he could have made up right off the top. It didn't make sense to me that Carol Danvers would know anything about his former life as a kid, or even anything younger, or anything at all. None of that made any sense to me. So maybe I need to go rewatch it or something like that. Maybe they had like a longer relationship or a friendship before that I was unaware of. But I was like, this doesn't make sense to me at the moment. Also, I thought they were going to go a little bit harder with the 90s theme or tone or whatever you want to call it. The way they advertised it, I want to say it was one of the only trailers I wanted to see before. I don't like watching trailers before I go in. I like watching them after I see the movie, so I get to see all the special effects, all the stuff for the first time on the big screen, or for the first time in the movie, and it's not spoiled. But this was one of the first marketing trailers that I saw a few months ago, and the way I felt like they were really selling it was fish out of water, buddy cop movie. This is what we got to do. It felt very like, okay, this is how it's going to go. But it also felt like there was a lot better pacing to it in the trailer, which I hate sometimes. Sometimes the trailer's cut in a way that you think it's going to be a faster paced movie, and it's not. And it's like, But I can't say I was bored at all. I was just saying some of the pacing in it was not as, Guardians of the Galaxy-esque as you would probably expect. Guardians of the Galaxy had an amazing way using the soundtrack and score as a way to, emphasize the story and boost it in a way that narratively moved it forward. Captain Marvel just picks random songs from the 90s that are self-empowerment, mostly female related, which is nothing like, once I said, nothing's wrong with any of this, but none of it had tonal or thematic sense, considering she doesn't ever feel 200% engrossed by the 90s, or it's like it's super overbearing, but it's just like, it just felt like, okay, we have a list of songs and let's play some of these, and it felt a little bit out of sequence. And I've seen some comments saying that they think the backlash on this seems to be that it's a rush job and it's too much of a story that feels like it's trying to hold two movies together. And I respectfully disagree with that. I think that this definitely edged out a part. It's created its own character in a way that was unique, and you do watch the majority of the movie not really knowing who you're cheering for till about the hour 30-minute mark. And I don't have anything wrong with that. And I liked the female empowerment message and editing they did with it. The way she would stand up, and it would cut to her standing up at different ages. It reminded me of the what do we do if we fall, Mr. Wayne? We get back up or something like that. And so that's what I was playing that Alfred clip in my head. So sorry if that was a shitty Alfred impression, but that's what it sounded. I just kept thinking of we get back up, and that's what I was thinking of during those editing scenes. And I thought some of the editing was slick. The cinematography and the way that the colors popped off were really cool on her when she had her powers going, but really it was ill-defined, and it didn't make tons of sense the way it was portrayed. And there's a lot of holes within the plot. So overall, I liked it, didn't love it. I'm ready for Endgame. Let's do it. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention about Deus Ex Goose. The Goose Cat evidently has the Tesseract, removed Nick Fury's eye. That was just bizarre how that happened. And it was Deus Ex Goose. I mean, the Goose Cat decided to attack when it wanted, and that's not the kind of shit I want to see. I want to see it naturally progress to, if it's going to attack all the time, learn how to attack, that type of thing. Don't attack because of plot convenience. So that was my thing. The de-aging technology looked amazing on Samuel L. Jackson. I heard it's probably because they have just tons of footage to use. Nick Coulson, was it Coulson? I don't remember his first name, but Coulson was looked pretty good. That guy is he's always a solid actor, but they don't ever seem to give him that much to do ever since the first Avengers, in my opinion. I feel like they've always let him down, and Nick Fury's just slightly overshadowed him. I don't know, maybe it might be the writing. Let me see, anything else we need to add? The different suits looked amazing. Powers, like I said, they were kind of iffy and a little bit from the DC handbook. It just seemed like that's what it looked like. And Jude Law turned into the evil bad guy at the end. And I don't know. Just it was kind of a hammy ending at the end, and that's and he was just supposed to be a big front for alpha maleism or something like that. You need to smile more, you need to do this, you need to do that, and she doesn't need to do shit. And so I totally understand why they went with that, but it didn't ultimately seem like they had this written out for the entire time. It felt like it might have been a couple reshoots or something like that. But so check out the rest of the LuckyDog podcast at gmail.com for questions, comments, concerns. Email us on that. Check out the Twitch stream. We are occasionally twitching and streaming and live streaming some of these podcasts, so you can ask some questions on there as well. We have many more podcasts coming down the tube. Recently, we have checked out The Umbrella Academy on Netflix, Leaving Neverland on HBO, That was like 4-hour documentary plus an Oprah interview. So we've covered the entire thing and released. The Russian Doll show on Netflix, Doom Patrol on DC, and we just released Game of Thrones Season 1 wrap-up. Check out that on Lucky Dog Podcasts, all in the library. Thank you for listening, and take it easy.
We have no idea what threats are out there. We can't do this alone. We need you.
I'm not what you think I am.